Welcome to Intro to Excel. I'm going to try to review Excel or give you an introduction in a short amount of time that will cover probably many pages in the book, especially for people who have not worked with Excel before. We're going to be working with this file here, the Save Sable River Foundation, but before I do that, I'm going to go over some basics, actually with just a blank file, just to give you a little overview of Excel. So I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to open up a blank workbook. Now it's called a workbook because pretty much this is where you do work. We're going to be working with numbers, we're going to be making charts, but a lot of times you're not going to be printing out from Excel. You're actually going to be taking information from Excel, whether you made a little table or whether you made a chart, and you're going to put it into a Word document, you could put it into a PowerPoint presentation. So, this is our workbook window. And down below our window we have multiple worksheets that we could work in Excel. And there's actually, I think, a total of 255 different worksheets you can create. You could right click on these, you can rename them, you can add them by hitting the little plus sign. We probably wouldn't use more than one or two in the class that we're working with here, but just be aware that you can make a lot of them and have multiple worksheets in one workbook document or Excel document. All right, what I'd like you to look at right now, first of all, the ribbon along the top. The ribbon's much like the ribbon in Word and PowerPoint and some of the other programs in Office. One thing that you should note is we're going to be pretty much working in this Home tab. There are other tabs here, Insert, where we could insert charts, page layout, formulas, data, review, view, but primarily we're going to be working in this Home tab. So we won't be jumping around tabs a whole lot. A lot of what we're going to do in here's formatting, here's alignment, here's our number display, formatting cells, columns, rows. We're going to be doing that all here. So there's a lot we're going to be able to do right from this Home tab. Now, one thing just to show you with our interface here, just a couple things that you should know, and this will be on the exam or whatever quiz or test we have, but a couple things to note here is that these things, A, B, C, D, going across the top, these are your columns. Columns are shown with letters. And there can actually be, I think, somewhere like 16,000 columns you can eventually have if you needed more than are displaying right here. Now, you could see if they're going to letters, after they get to Z, what they'll do is they'll just start over with AA, BB, CC, DD, and so on and so on. I've never worked with this worksheet that went more than, this far anyway, that went into that too much anyway. So hopefully you won't either. Also, going down here, these are your rows. Your rows go down, and notice that when I click on an individual row, it selects all the cells across. No matter how many you have, it will go across. So I'm actually selecting the rows here, and they are identified by numbers. So rows are identified by numbers, columns are identified by letters, and I think in rows you could have like 1,000,000 different rows going down. And I pray that you never have to work on anything that has 1,000,000 rows going down, but if you had to, you have that capability. Okay, now again, another thing to show here, this is your name box, and I'm just going to click in A1 here. This is cell A1 because A1 identifies the coordinate of the column and the row. So at column A, row 1, it's called A1. So this is A1, this is B1, C1. That's how our cells will be identified, and they're identified in the name box. Now also what we're going to look at is the formula bar. Now this has a little FX, and we can put formulas in the formula bar, and we will put formulas in here. But also what's going to be displayed here is whatever's in the cell. Just for example, I'm going to type something in here. I'm going to type in Intro to Excel, since that's what we're working on. Now when I type that, I just typed it into cell A1, and it's showing A1 up here in the name box, and in my formula bar it's showing me the content. Now I can edit content up here. I could highlight, if I wanted to change this to be introduction instead of just intro, I could type that up here, or I could type this down here. I could double click in here. Now just remember, like initially you're going to see like this plus sign before you click on a cell, and when you click on a cell it's going to have this black border around it. Now one thing to note up here is that in cell A1 is introduction to Excel. Now in cell B1 it looks like this is going across into cell B1, but it's actually not. If I click on B1, this is showing me there's no content in B1. Okay, there's only content in A1. And what Excel does, if there's no content in B1, it actually keeps writing the information, displaying the information across. The minute I put information in here, let's say I just want to put in, today's date. I just want to put in 8/1/12. The minute I type in information in this cell, it now cuts off what's showing up in cell A1. So in order to see the full length of what's in there, Introduction to Excel, I have to look in the formula bar. Now if I wanted to extend this, I can actually go up here to where the columns divide, go right in between the columns, and you'll see a little double arrow. You see that double arrow? If I drag that, and you could even see that little thing, you see where it's saying width? Saying like width 8.43, and that's actually the default. The default width is 8.43, and that's actually measured in characters, meaning the letters that can show up in that cell at basic 12-point lettering. So as I drag this, let's say I want to drag this to make sure that Introduction to Excel fits, it might take like 20 characters to fit those letters in there. And what I did was I extended the width of that column. And it's the entire column, not just that cell, but every column that's in column A. And you can see it pushed this over. So I adjusted that manually, and you could do that with all these. You could take this row 1, and actually go here and actually extend it, and you can see the height. The default height of a row is 15, which is 15 point. It's about 20 pixels. I think on a Mac it'll show you pixels, but it's about 20 point, or about 15 point default to start. And as you drag this down, you can make that row bigger. Now what happened in this row, you can see it's aligned to the bottom, and this is aligned to the bottom. That's its default, and it's actually aligned to the left. If I drag this out more, you can see it stays to the left. So if you needed to change that, this is all under alignment. You can see where it is right now. It's showing it's bottom aligned. This is your vertical alignment. This is your horizontal alignment. Now horizontal alignment you're familiar with, to center things and to make them aligned right. So if I centered it, it would be there. If I want to center it up and down, I would use this button. If I wanted it to go to the top, I would use that button. Same thing with this cell. If I want that to go to the top, I would hit this cell. If I want it centered, I would hit that cell, or that button, or I could align it that way. So that's basic alignment features, and I could highlight both of these, and I'll just kind of put them the way they were. This is the way they started, and I'm going to shorten up this. And another thing you could do, if I wanted to put it back to default, if I wanted to select A1 and put it back to default size, I could go over here. This is where I'm going to adjust sizes of rows, columns, and even cells. I could go, if I wanted to make this column back to what it was, I'm going to go to column width, and I'm going to put it back at, it was 8.43 to start. I'm going to put it back at 20, which is 20 characters. So I'm going to hit OK. Another thing I could also do under Format, under column width, instead of putting in a number, I could do Autofit column width. And what Autofit does is it just fits to the longest character, so it just shortens it so that nothing gets cut off. Same thing here. If I went on this cell and I went to Format Autofit, it would basically fit this column to be where the longest letter is. Okay, so again, you can adjust these manually, or you could go to Format and adjust the column or the row and put in numbers as you need. Okay, so that's just one thing to note with that. And another thing here also, as we're just looking at the interface with this formatting here, obviously we could change the text color, which you've done before. We could also change the background color of cells. I'll just make that blue. That doesn't look very nice, but that's what we're going to use this paint bucket for, is the background color of cells. So if we made worksheets that had alternate rows or in a different color just to help us read it, we would be using these. So this is our formatting, our alignment. Merge and center we'll use on our assignment. Format, this is one that we'll use to adjust our heights, our widths as we work. And again, I'm going to go to the next assignment. I'm going to actually close this. I'm just going to do File Close, and I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to start working with this document right here. So I'm going to take a little break, and we'll get back to working with this document.